All right, I'm so excited today to have Sean Bourquin here today. I've known Sean for over 10 years at this point, but really appreciate you coming on the show because up above you, you've got a mountain bike. It looks like a bit of a historical mountain bike photo, and over my shoulder, I've got a little mountain bike stick photo down there. I've also got one of my free ride photos. So, um, thank you for coming on the show. And yeah, to get started, let's just get a brief overview of Sean, how you got to be here on Vancouver Island, and then how you got to Fullon Lighting, your current company.
Right on. Thanks for having me, Kale. Yeah, it's fun to talk. It's cool to see the biking connection that we have for sure. So how I got to Vancouver Island, pretty easy. I was born here, born in Sydney, as it turns out, at the old Resthaven Hospital that's no longer there. Tried to escape a few times, but there was always something bringing me back here. Full on is, a stepping stone that's preceded by a bunch of other stepping stones. Um, so I started my career, in a technical capacity. I was an electronics technologist. Then I did my computer engineering degree, worked as a, embedded systems designer in a number of local tech companies, and I've sort of spent my career in our tech scene, and then evolved into sales engineering and then product management, and then adding those skills to my technical background kind of gave me the confidence to start something myself, which was First Light Technologies. And then First Light Technologies, I did that for 14 years and then exited in early 2023 and started Fullon, which is kind of a natural progression for me because it does combine things that I'm really good at professionally, my entrepreneurial sort of interests, and also personal passion with my biking for sure.
Now, tell us what Full On Lighting is, what you make, how you make it, and how you've launched into the business world. I got reintroduced to Full On Lighting, I think sometime in 2024, and have been watching eagerly and seeing some of the breakout on social media and on other platforms.
Yeah, so Full-on lighting, is a result of something I've been thinking about for 10 years, which is, as an avid mountain biker, I've had night riding experiences over the years, and, with my sort of product management hat on, like I've always thought there was a better opportunity or an opportunity to create something better, and so having spent 20 years with LEDs and outdoor lighting, I thought, I think we can do something here. What I ended up doing is when I exited First Light, three other folks from First Light sort of jumped on board with Full On and wanted to go on the journey. So we set about taking a really close look at the mountain biking space, what the market looked like, what the competitors look like technically, what's going on, and just tried to see like I felt like there was a problem we're solving there, and then with the team it's like, okay, well, let's dig in, let's find out. So we bought a bunch of lights, the best lights we could find the world over. We took them out on the trails, we tested them out, and then like, okay, like I think there's an opportunity here to do something better. And then I wanted to get the team's buy-in, like, do you agree, does this make sense to you? And they did. So then we began really, yeah, this was early 2023, and it began like a real solid year of concept development, prototyping, experimentation, like using our lighting experience, doing a bunch of modeling, then getting out on the trails and testing. Do these things make sense? And just honing in on what the eventual product was going to be, which is our MB6 light, which just started shipping this month. Yeah, it was a long concept development phase to really try to dial it. Like my approach to markets is I really like to get a nice tight niche, and really get a very clear vision of what the product needs to do, who it's for, and back it out from there. So yeah, it was about a year of real heavy testing, and then the development really started, product design really started last year. And then, as like we sort of publicly launched at Crankworks and Whistler over the summer, and then we did a Kickstarter, and then, used that momentum to kind of get everything done through the fall and then ship now.
Great. So tell me a little bit about I mean, I've got lots of questions, but tell me a little bit about the Kickstarter campaign because there's lots of ways to fund a business, but for kind of consumer goods, it's slightly different than business B2B like Carmana and I think First Light. So
Yep.
tell me about the Kickstarter campaign. What did that look like?
Yeah, it was an
Would you do
interesting
it again?
interesting experience because I've never backed a Kickstarter. I knew it was really popular at some point, and I hadn't really thought about it or looked at it myself. But what ended up happening is we were thinking ahead to the product, and we were thinking about, okay, how do we get the word out? What do we plan for operationally? What should our first production run be? And then while we were thinking about these things, a buddy of mine, Mike Williams, another sort of local tech guy in town, I was talking to him, and he happened to have done a podcast with another local tech company who had just done a Kickstarter. They had done a Kickstarter and it was a good experience for them. And then he had done a podcast with an agency that helped them do the Kickstarter because, Kickstarter had been suggested to us. I'm like, I don't know anything about this. So it's like, I don't really want to do that. I listened to the podcast with the agency founder who had helped these other guys do their Kickstarter. And it's like, that makes sense. And I think for me, what the Kickstarter actually represented wasn't so much a way to get money. We had enough funding to go do the product ourselves, but what it was also, more a marketing tactic to really kind of get the word out. And for us, you're right, like my experience has all been B2B, and knowing like, okay, this is my first consumer product. I know the tech, I know mountain biking, but I don't know, the B to C normal tactics, knowing that, like the social media, getting the word out and just being really engaged there was going to be important. So we talked to the agency about the idea of doing this. They themselves had a vetting process around like, hey, do we think this is a product that makes sense? And we went through that. That made sense. And they really had an awesome process for equipping us to run campaigns, figure out, lots of A/B testing of different things, and just really got us skilled in, using all the social media platforms and running ads and just figuring out how much to budget, do all of those things. So I viewed it as a really powerful boot camp for us to kind of get equipped. And also it got a lot of eyeballs on us, I was pretty impressed with the reach, and the targeting abilities through these platforms. And so, for me, from a get the word out perspective, totally worth it. And the funding side, it just helped us, kind of get a good sense of what, this first batch of lights was going to be. And the cool thing is, we knew when we were going to go to market without a Kickstarter idea, we were going to have to build a fleet of lights and get them into people's hands to, with products like this, I really am a big believer of seeing is believing. You can tell people it's awesome and, do that stuff and maybe they'll buy it. But I knew when they saw it, they would believe. So now we've got, we had 117 backers on Kickstarter, and now we've got, people all across North America who are getting our lights and trying them out and giving us like feedback that, for me, I've never had feedback like this on any product I've been associated with, which is really awesome because, I like mountain biking. It means a lot to me, and to have other bikers, other riders be like, wow, this thing is the best light I've ever seen, is pretty cool. So the Kickstarter was good for that and just got us some momentum to get started out of the gates.
As far as positioning as a price point, how did you choose? And I imagine the thing I like about platforms where people already have their credit card in, it's a little bit easier than, trying to get them to a landing page and then get them to check out what's the company. They've got some safety or familiarity with that existing platform. But tell me about your pricing on the product. I saw it when you launched and I'm like, oh, in the slowdown in the biking industry, this is too much. But you got your backers and you're getting out into the hands of people who regularly spend definitely $10,000 Canadian for a mountain bike. So I love, some of the premium businesses, either downtown Victoria or in Tofino or in other parts, some of the manufacturers up on the boat side of North Island and stuff. But tell me about your pricing strategy with this product, because lights are so important in so many situations as we've touched on, but tell me how you came to the price point, and do you feel comfortable with it? So,
Yeah, good question. So I think being a Victoria-based business, we build our lights here. We like putting our hands on things. We like being agile. We like having our supply chains under good control, and I like the circular economy side of like buying and building as locally as we can. And in Victoria, if you're manufacturing anything, it's not going to be the low cost game. It's going to be, and we knew like, I built this light for people like me, you're right, who spend a lot of money and will pay for performance. So it is a premium product. And in the premium product category for bike lights, you really see them go from maybe $300 all the way up to the most expensive light we bought and used was $2,000.
wow.
And that one's a bit of an outlier. And so we thought, okay, like we're going to position ourselves as a premium product and, unmatched performance. Like we really wanted to lead with like nothing will touch this in terms of performance was the goal. And that's the feedback we've been getting. And through the Kickstarter, we priced it at, I think, $575. And then, I didn't really want to go there. I wanted the number to start with a 4, because it's as a single light, it's kind of in that premium pricing category, but it's not the most expensive, but it is the best performing. So I don't want to be the most expensive, but I do want to be the best performing.
Yeah.
So we launched on Kickstarter at $575, and then we've just adjusted down to $495.
US or Canadian?
$495 Canadian.
Okay.
Is where we're sitting right now, and it's like
Okay.
I'm comfy there. We we've built our pricing to allow for local bike shops to stock and have enough margin for them to be excited about carrying the product. So we've the nice thing about our B2B background is we're really comfy with channel sales of different types, agents, distributors, different kinds of specifiers, contractors. So in this business it's pretty similar. Where you've got distributors and you've got retailers, sometimes you've got agents. So, we designed our pricing with that in mind.
And will you see, as you grow your volumes, will you see better margins with maybe some different manufacturing technologies that you might bring in, or volume purchasing?
Yeah, this was a big push for us because we knew we needed out of the gates to tool up, processes that were high volume capable. So injection molding and things like that. That was the biggest technical thing for us to get our heads around. Like we've done lots of casting, lots of machining, lots of metal forming, extrusions and things, lots of circuit boards. But this one, we were doing a fairly complex over molded, injection molded part with like polycarbonate and some rubber. And that was an interesting one for us to work with the vendors, like a little bit, pretty iterative to get it just right. And that took us time that I think surprised me. Like, getting to 90% was really pretty quick, but getting to 100 took some iteration. So yeah, we paid the money, we tooled up, it's ready to go. And then, so we'll get the cost down via volumes, and then to me, it's kind of where it needs to be. Pretty much already in the volumes we're buying now, so margins will improve over time and with volume. And the goal here strategically is this is the beginning where we go after like making a good mountain bike light is probably the most complicated technical problem to solve in any kind of bike lighting space. And to back up, Fullon Lighting, like we start with bike lighting, but our goals are broader than that. And we call it personal lighting products. So there's lots of consumer segments where people need a good light on their person, but there's also a lot of commercial applications where people need good lights to do work. Yeah, we picked a pretty tough product category with mountain biking because we knew it's premium, we knew we can get the margins, and we knew we can establish a presence there and then work from there.
We had touched in our pre-call just a little bit about mining. We've got one mine in Campbell River that's open often. I think they're currently waiting to get back into production, underground mine. But we've also still got, a couple of pulp mills still operating, those 24/7 operations on the industrial side where there's outdoor there's that need to be outdoor and be safe and not have to deal with like a couple AA batteries. Like,
Yeah.
my wife says one of my biggest Achilles heels is batteries. I'm dealing with them on the trucks, the boat, the bikes.
Yep.
So really being able to take away that stress from the people who are doing high value work outside 24/7, I think it's a amazing service you'll be able to give to other businesses down the road.
That's the hope, and we do have that B2B background, so we're really comfy dealing with consumer or commercial industrial kind of customers, and there's two elements when it comes to these kinds of lighting products. So you touched on one, like the battery technology, or in general, sort of energy management. How can you do that in a way that makes sense in terms of, extending the life of batteries, choosing the right battery technologies that will last inherently, reducing waste by making good choices there. And also the big problem, what people will generally experience with a lot of these personal lighting products is the optical design is really bad. And, the fact that we've been in outdoor lighting for 20 years, we understand what professional lighting looks like, and we know how to design products that do it. And it turns out that it's a different approach than what's being used in these bike lights or in some of the work light market, where the optical design is really more coming from like let's work from a flashlight perspective. And like I get why they're doing that, because you're coming from incandescent bulbs and halogen bulbs and you have these little reflectors, but that doesn't make for a great lighting product when you embrace LED technology. And there's a major opportunity for improvement in a lot of these segments. So yeah, there's those two elements of optical design and energy management, and like that's my background, and I get excited about it because I like seeing opportunity to make things better for people, in the form of these kinds of products.
Well, and it's great, that background, because I think starting any business on Vancouver Island can have its challenges, but your experience with Carmana in the past, and
Yep.
then also with First Light, you've got industry connections around North America and the world, and then some local manufacturing experience. So specifically on the injection molding, did you have to go off Vancouver Island for that?
We did. We ended up using a US company and worked through them to, like, I don't know where the closest injection molding facility is near us, but pretty sure what we're doing is not available on the island. Another big mechanical part for us is machined aluminum, and that's with a company that's a couple blocks away from us that we used to, help us source.
Great. What company is that?
That's RT Prime, another EO member, Ray, which is great because Ray, they bought some lights from us, which is great. And I just checked with Ray today, and he used it he's using one of the bike lights to light up the basketball court for his kids, and he's stoked about it. It is interesting. Like we designed this for mountain biking, but it can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we just get, the customers will pull us into other things that they think are interesting. But yeah, our background is area lighting, so it's kind of fun. He's taking a bike light to light a basketball court, and he's like, "It's all I need. I don't have to buy some expensive, complicated outdoor light. I can just use this." Like, yeah, you can.
Yeah, and worry about wiring it, or if there's enough solar and all those things.
Yep.
So so several good local suppliers have really helped. What about the market here on Vancouver Island, BC, West Coast? Tell me about how it's sold. How many of you sold to Vancouver Island, and where do you think you're going to sell the most kind of in the next 12, 24 months?
Just out of the gates, we've just shipped all our Kickstarter lights. That's 117, and we've sold, a couple dozen more. So it's early, like it's just the very beginning. But one of the reasons I wanted to do this business is most of my career has been spent doing business far from here. A lot of Victoria companies are like that. They don't do any business here. I viewed it as a major advantage that this region of the world has an extremely strong cycling culture and presence, mountain biking specifically, as like the North Shore, Kamloops, the island to a lesser degree. Like there's just has been the origin of a lot of our modern mountain biking, and is full of fantastic riders. Our goal is like win here. establish ourselves, win here. We've been really lucky that way because the reception we've been getting is really good from, sometimes other brands or professional riders. We had Mark Wallace, a World Cup downhill racer. He's a fantastic guy and just keen to, when I first reached out to him, he's like, yeah, I'll help you out. And like we get him out, we do some filming with him, and it's just, we've got such a great culture here. So yeah, goal number one is win here, and then leverage that to grow faster around, North America. And then we do expect to have success globally with what we're doing. It's a nice tight community.
Well, Vancouver Island is kind of a sports mecca that definitely I've seen Langford, really embrace, but other parts as well. Jeff Kabush, former Olympian, I used to race with him. I was probably in the back somewhere very far back, but lots of both cycling, but other sports centers of excellence. So, it's great that you'll be able to leverage that. You also mentioned Darren Bearclaw up in Qualicum. Yeah. World class, has mountain biked all over the world, been in lots of films and stuff. So being able to leverage so many local assets for your business, some of the manufacturing, you've got to utilize other areas, some of it local, but also the consumer base, and it is a health product. One of the problems with Canada, I've got a client in Whitehorse. He's like, oh, the weather's been pretty warm the last couple of days. It hasn't been it's been 2 degrees, but he's like, it's dark, right? and to exercise as much as as a middle-aged man or anybody in the north, adding things like lighting is a great opportunity. Vancouver Island is, you can golf year round, but things get a little shorter here, and as you get further north, they get a lot shorter, right? So it's a great opportunity to help people with their health, and be able to exercise. I'm going out for night walks with a buddy once a week, and I'm always like grabbing lights and stuff, right? So it's a health thing to be able to ride your bike safely, not even 24 hours, but even during the day in the north is hard. So well, and
we're getting that here too. Like really, you're right. Like our vision for the business, our purpose is we exist to help people work and play better in the dark. And we're blessed with not a ton of snow here, but we also have a lot of darkness. And I was out for a few walks this week, and I was so excited to take the light and just have it, walking through parks, and it's dark. And there's that, it enables people to get out there. And one of the things we've seen with some of our early customers is they were, in the case of biking, they didn't feel safe going out with the things, the lights that they'd seen before. Creating a sense of safety is a big part of what we want to do for people. And the design intent of the product, the way it works, is it fills your field of view with light. So you do engage your peripheral vision, which is really unusual. If anyone's got a flashlight or a headlight, look carefully, you will find a lot of darkness in your periphery. And that doesn't really help create a sense of safety in any way, whether, you're like me, you're out riding in the woods in the dark and you hear creatures off in the distance, and you're, oh, is it a bear, is it a cougar, or is it just deer? Or if you're on the goose, and sometimes you have bad interactions on the goose, if you're commuting. So this hopefully will empower people just to feel more comfortable, safer. We want people, like in this case with the first mountain bike, like the MB6, we want people to, I ride faster with it at night, but I feel safer, and ultimately actually just have more fun because of it, and it's that emotional connection, or emotionally enabling people to go out and do it, is really what we're striving for. And the fun thing is the feedback that's coming back, it's doing that. So yeah, you're right. Like if you're in Whitehorse and you want to get out there and do stuff, we can help you. And I follow your social media a little bit. You've had them up at Mount Washington on night skiing as well, eh? Yeah, that's been pretty fun. And even on the lit runs, there's some dark spots. But yeah, Mount Washington over the holidays, I did a bunch of night skiing, and the Whiskey Jack chair is the night ski chair, but that run is not lit. And you'll see people come down there and fumble their way through the dark. But you put something like this on your head, it's normal. It's like day. And the other one we had a guy who he bought it for mountain biking, but he went out backcountry skiing out behind Whistler, and his friends took a picture from like 2.5 kilometers away, and the guy was stoked. Yeah. He went up there to watch sunset and then came down in the dark and good to go.
It's amazing the technology that you're utilizing, also with recent phones and stuff. That the night enhancing kind of really help on the photography side of things, and it's just really changed the experience for documenting it, but also just that experience to say like the day doesn't have to end at 3:30. You can go night skiing, but in a different way, because like I've been skiing when it's snowing in the day and it's terrible, but at night it's a different experience. And if it snowed heavily all day and it stopped snowing and you can get out there and ski like that's a great kind of experience changing. And when we talk about markets and what people are investing, like I went to Vail a couple years ago and I choked on the price of a walk-up ticket. I think was $290 US or something. Wow. Unfortunately, I had a friend who I was able to get like kind of like a friends and family rate to spend 400, 500 on a light when you've got a season's pass, and be able to ski those extra runs or do the backcountry skiing on a work day. I know Vancouver Islanders who've moved to Vernon and stuff, and they're big cross country skiers, and they're working horrendous hours, but you still need the exercise. So it's great that it's a.
And that's it. Like for me, that was the thing. Like especially like we sort of envision this product really core customers kind of 30, 35 and up. Where you're often in your career, it's kind of go time. You're pushing, you're working hard. You have a family. Oftentimes you've got kids, so you have to make time for that. And then you sort of yourself you rank third or fourth on the list of the things that matter. This just creates an option to go do the things you enjoy, while also taking care of all the other things you have to do. So yeah, definitely expanding it. And even the snow stuff, like we've got people who want to go sledding with it. And one guy was telling us, he's like, yeah, the lights on the sleds are useless because they just get caked in snow. So having something on your head is really important. So it's like, okay, that's just another adjacent thing. Or we've had people with dirt bikes getting off road at night, same thing. And then cross country skiing. We had a buddy take one to Kimberley over the holidays and was doing some cross country skiing, fat biking. So it's kind of, it's just fun. Like it's just a generally useful thing. And, I used it for camping a lot last year, which was pretty fun. And then, we try to make the products really useful. So the battery, for example, is a fantastic power bank. So if you want to go bike packing or camping, then it'll charge your phone 6 or 8 times, and so it's, we just want to just enable people to go, have fun playing in the dark.
Any shops that have been really key in helping you break into other communities? Because I really want to bring a bit of the community. I've never worked in the direct to consumer space, fully trying to sell anything to them. But I know there's been a shift down south in the United States and in some areas where cycling is kind of retracting a little bit. I know there's been shops closing at various places, but any great partners up island on the bike shop?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Like we're just starting that now. That's kind of, a lot of our success in the past was based on really intentional outbound campaigns. So now we're doing that here with shops. We know shops are going to be an important partner for us in the local community. So, the first shop to really engage was Beaufort Cycles up in Cumberland. Because I go up and ride in Cumberland, go ski on the hill, and I'd just been in there a number of times while we were in product development, letting them know what we're doing. I had an early proof of concept they took in there, and Ryan, the owner there, he was always keen, and so they were the first shop to buy lights, and I was up there. It was just last week doing a demo ride with them and their local crew, and just getting the word out. And they had a local ambassador rider who's done some nice content, and it's begun there. Turns out I had a buddy from high school, Keble, who owns the Aerosmith bike shops in Parksville and Nanaimo. And so Keble he's got a demo light, and he's been out, and he seems, he's keen. He wants to get some lights, so that's good. And we've been out to most of the local shops in town, so it's just early days still, getting demo lights, showing people, like I think I said before, this is a seeing is believing kind of product. And it's an interesting time, you're right, to be in the market. Like, there is a post-COVID, shrink kind of happening in biking, and some big brands have experienced some financial challenges. One of the oldest bike lighting companies just announced, I think last week, that they were shutting it down. So I thought that was really interesting. And for me, it's a bit deja vu, because when we started First Light in 2009, of course, things had just collapsed in 2008. And our attitude was, well, if we can make it through this moment, then we can make it through anything. And that proved true in that case. And this is sort of another one where it's an example of like, okay, we launch a product, we think it's differentiated, we think there's enough of an audience, and if we can make it happen now, it's going to bode well for us. And we're not the only ones. Like, there is an up and coming company, I think now they're maybe 7 years old, out of Michigan, and they're similar mentality to us in terms of being really like creating a great experience for customers. Standing behind what we do has always been a key at First Light and here. Like, we have our customers' backs. When everything goes good, it's easy, but sometimes things don't go good. Sometimes there's a problem, and that's really how brands, I think, can differentiate themselves. If you stand behind what you're doing, whether someone screwed up and made a mistake and broke something, or there was a flaw in the product, how you deal with that really is a great opportunity to establish loyalty. That's core to our DNA, is like, we're here to help people, right? So we're not going to jam you if something bad happens. We'll stand behind it. We'll help. We're watching this other competitor. They're growing really strongly. They're doing a great job, and it's like, yeah, okay. So if you're similarly minded, I think you can have a great business. And it's not just bike lights; it's every business where, it's easy to differentiate through just being receptive. Answer the phone if someone calls. Answer the email if someone is. Our general manager Scott, he goes nuts because he does all the procurement and ops work, and he goes nuts because like people will have their online forums or whatnot, and the number of companies who just don't answer, it's insane. And so that's just an easy thing to do if you're paying attention. Good. So anyways, yeah, it's an interesting time to get into the business, but I think we're doing something interesting, and it's quite unique, and I feel good about that.
And we talked about it, touched on a few things. Your expertise in electrical remote and batteries. The e-bike side of things is really, from my understanding, really exploding, both here in Victoria, on Vancouver Island. I purchased an e-bike. I think it was Aerosmith Bikes, a giant dealer up island. And, the market globally for biking, I think, is moving a lot towards the e-bike market. Do you think you'll see a lot of sales there? And then also on these Surons, which are kind of the electric dirt bike version, where do you see things happening, maybe in Europe, or where do you see some good opportunities?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, if you look at the e-bike space, there's a few options to buy an aftermarket light for your e-bike, and we knew from day one we would need that answer, like an e-bike kit for our standard light. So we know the technical answer, and we'll roll that out pretty quickly. And that was something that Ryan up at Beaufort, he was like, oh, I want to integrate this to my e-bike, can we do that, or my dirt bike? And it's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. So it's funny, we just figured out the answer yesterday, as it turns out. Our approach will be to get involved on the mountain bike side of e-bikes first, and enable people with a nice e-bike integrated version of our MB6 light. And then we can look, I do, again, back to our B2B background, is take a look at OEM work, which we had done in the lighting industry, where we'd engage different lighting brands and enabled them with solar technology. Well, we can do that here too. The nice thing is, like, because we make everything we do, we design everything we do, we can do that. If somebody needs a slightly different version, a commuter-oriented version of a light, like, that's easy for us to spin something like that. So I think we will pursue, OEM relationships and see, start with the shops, start with a kit, enable end users, and then work upstream through OEM opportunities as we go. But it's tricky, right? It's early days. We're in startup mode. You got to kind of do all the things all the time. Yeah. It's just not enough time in the day. And, as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're similar. I'm very impatient. I just want it to all happen right now. But things, it takes time.
Yeah. And what's the voltages for, I don't want to get down in the weeds, but, I come from a bit of a marine background where, some boats are 12 volt, but then as you get into the larger boats, you're getting into 24, 36 volts. What are the voltages for the e-bikes, and um, is that going to be a challenge, interfacing with these other platforms?
Yeah, it was interesting. What I've been seeing on the mountain bike side, I'm seeing a lot of 36s and 48
Yeah,
volts. And then, the way we designed our light, we didn't want to use, a dumb proprietary or old school barrel kind of electrical connector. So we've gone with a USB platform. And so USB Type-C connector. And so our light is smart. So if you plug in, for example, a power bank off of Amazon and it's USB Type-C power delivery compatible, it can run our light. And so the easy thing for us, and there's lots of off-the-shelf options. If your e-bike's 36 volts, there's lots of off-the-shelf things that you can just buy that will take that 36 volts and translate it over to the USB power delivery standard. So there's like an out of the box seamless opportunity to just integrate without having to develop a bunch of new, anything. So
great.
it's we really tried. The world is going towards USB-C, and I'm surprised in some ways that the e-bike guys don't have just a USB-C connector on the bike, because it's just so easy. And
Yeah,
yeah, so that's I think that will be, that's the path for a lot of these devices so yeah, there'll be a small little widget that interfaces between our light and the battery, and then you're good to go.
great. Yeah, because I know that the Cybertruck is a 48 volt architecture.
Good question. A lot of stuff is 48. Like
Yeah,
people in the off-grid world, you'll often want to stick around 48 volts, because then
yeah,
that keeps the voltage at a point where it's hard to kill people and shock them. you know, and it's that balance of like, okay, keep the shock hazard low, but also, try to get that voltage up so the current carrying, the wiring is not too big and onerous.
yeah. I follow, a local BC business, Edison Motors. Like there's a lot of battery based, and there's a lot of automotive stuff that's happening here, in BC. I
Huh.
don't know of a lot of on Vancouver Island, but yeah, I mean the battery space is changing. Costs are coming down on the battery cells. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for me, we when we began in solar lighting back in the Carmana days and even the early First Light days, everything was lead acid batteries. And you see that in the solar world, off-grid solar. I'm sure that's still a thing, but lithium iron phosphate, and in this case, this is a lithium an NCM cell. It's been transformational. By the time we had switched over to lithium in the First Light days, they were cheaper than the lead batteries we were using. And then the lifetime benefits in that use case it was a no-brainer. They were
Yeah.
lighter for the same capacity, they were less expensive. The cycle life was, shoot, like in hot places, like 10 times longer. It's crazy. So definitely a very enabling technology, and I think it's going to continue. And like what you're talking about on the automotive side, like, I don't know that most people realize like the strength in this region, Victoria, Lower Mainland, in solar off-grid stuff. I think we've got higher solar lighting type companies per capita than anywhere in North America for sure, coming
Yeah.
out of Victoria. So the knowledge around batteries and solar and some of these other technologies is extremely strong. And there often is a linkage of people and history between some of these companies for sure.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and we're seeing a bit in the marine space, but yeah, so much opportunity. Now, are there any businesses you'd like to give a shout out to here on Vancouver Island that you really like? They don't have to be related to your current company, but any ones that you've interacted with in the last 12 months who have surprised and delighted you, either on a B2B or B2C side?
Yeah, I think one of the companies that was really cool was Forbidden Bikes. They're up in Cumberland. I reached out to them because we were going to be at Crankworks to show what we were doing, and I wanted to have as much local stuff in there as I could. And I'm like, hey, can I borrow a bike from you guys to put in our display at Crankworks? They're like, yeah, no problem. And they're just so accommodating, so cool about it. And then when we were at Crankworks, we got to know know them a little bit, know more about their origin story, which is very similar to what started me down my entrepreneurial path. So I thought, you know, very cool company designing and building,
Yeah.
something difficult like bikes here on the island. I thought that was really cool. And then, Beaufort and Aerosmith bikes, like doing a good job in their space, through a tough time. Like, I think that's really cool. The guys at RT Prime, helping us out, and helping, design for manufacturability a little bit and just, being collaborative partners has been good. I think another interesting, back to my roots is, a buddy of mine sold his company to Carmana in the traffic flashing beacon space, and they're doing a good job. And then they have another competitor in Victoria, JSF Technologies. Phil, the CEO, like they're good guys, and they're doing good work. And a lot of these companies, people don't really know unless you're kind of in, you're well connected and you kind of know, but most people don't. There's
Well,
fantastic companies here.
and I don't, and it's part of the mix is, and the reason for starting this podcast is I do a ton of business off the island, and it used to be I'd go on these 15,000-kilometer road trips, but it's so great to learn about what somebody's doing, and
Well,
when I just catch a little bit on social media that you've launched this new company, Sean, and it's like, oh, it's a target market. It fits with health, which is one of my passions, and being outdoors. I'm like, how come I didn't know about this? And then I hear about RT Prime launching their electric foil boards, and I've got a
Yep.
foil. I consider myself a cyclist / waterman almost in the same breath.
Oh yeah, it is like the more I sit and think about it, like Starfish Medical, Scott with his company there, like, not a lot of people know that he exists and the kind of work he does has global reach, and in his space he does just amazing work and has had phenomenal growth. Or, X-Links Materials that I'm involved with as well, doing molecular cross-linkers, which, you know, like who knew, creating new possibilities in the world of material science. Like it's like there's just a treasure trove of really powerful innovation that springs out of this place. And for me, I don't know that I would have begun an entrepreneurial journey if I wasn't in this town, where, like, I think you and I talked before we started about, David Green, the founder of Carmana, right? Like having people in, mentor opportunities in this town, or like even the work Viatech has done to try to create community and connect people. Like I've found it very empowering, to see these examples of people doing hard things and having success here is, for me, is crazy. It's just, I think we're really lucky here, and I don't know. Yeah, I know people try to get the word out, but I don't think people really get it. Like we punch above our weight for what happens here.
Yeah, no, it's not a sleepy government retirement island. Like there's big business up and down the island that, they've got customers from, billionaires down to, servicing people locally in that circular economy. So thank you so much for bringing the light to us on this. And I hope to see better in my own journey on the trails and stuff. And anything I can do to help. Fullonlighting.com is or what's the URL?
That is it, fullonlighting.com. Yep.
Beautiful. And you guys are on most of the socials, so I appreciate that. Sean's on LinkedIn for B2B, but definitely go to the website, follow their social media. I'm just thrilled with those night shots because I like the fact that there's people exercising, well into the night on Vancouver Island, where 12 months ago they would have been packing it in and going to have a drink. Nothing wrong with that, but it's good to have a balance Monday to Friday. So
Indeed. You can have a drink after you go exercise.
yeah, great. Thanks so much, Sean.
Thanks, Gail. Great talking.